Hello, Dr. Coker here, and this is the story of Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers, patch 5.1, Vows of Virtue, Deeds of Cruelty. Sometime after the hero returns from the first, he meets with Tataru and Flamen in Revenant's Toll. He tells them that Minfilia has passed on, but her gifts are alive in Reen, the Oracle of Light from the first. Flamen expresses gratitude for the hero and the young girl who carries her daughter's legacy. Then Riol approaches and tells Tataru he hasn't heard from their mysterious helper in a while. He plans on crossing the Gimlet Dark to see what's going on, and he mentions that Kryl has some news.
You're here. Good.
She says the Scions are still in a coma-like state, but their ether is growing unstable. She fears something bad will happen if they stay on the first for too long. Kryl says the key lies with G'raha, the Exarch, but she certainly doesn't want him to have to die as he originally planned. The hero returns to the first and calls the Scions together. Everyone comes except Thancred, but Urianger says Thancred and Reen are off exploring the emptiness behind the flood. The hero proceeds to explain what Kryl told him. Y'shtola remarks that for now, in the first, their souls seem to be unaffected.
How long they will remain so is another question. Kryl is right. It is imperative we find a way to return to the source.
G'raha explains how he summoned them to the first to begin with. He had to employ the boundless energy within the Crystal Tower and create a hole in reality, then pull them through it, but they came through incomplete. He says he will do everything he can to figure out how to send them back, but should that fail, his death would accomplish it.
How can you even entertain such thoughts? You owe your life to the Warrior of Light, and you don't get to die unless he says so.
Your followers await your divine judgment.
What did you just...
Moving on, Y'shtola notes that the hero can travel back and forth with no trouble, and even retain his possessions. Alphinaud wonders if the hero could bring them if somehow they were his possessions. Urianger says that White Orsite can contain souls, and that perhaps their souls could be trapped in it and the hero could take them across. G'raha says that the Nummo tribe that inhabit an ancient castle in Norvrant possess more knowledge on matters of the soul than anyone. He says that since the hero has made friends with the fairies in Ilmeg, the Nummo might be willing to help. G'raha says he will prepare a ship to the castle, called the Grand Cosmos, and Urianger says he will procure some White Orsite. Moments later, the heroes meet G'raha at the docks in Lakeland, and he tells them the palace is protected by familiars, so they should be prepared to fight. He says that defeating their familiars will only impress them and earn an audience with them. The heroes enter the Grand Cosmos and fight through an army of magic familiars. As they reach the center, they encounter a mighty one named Lugus and slay him.
That was my fiercest familiar. Oh, impressive.
The Crystal Exarch recognizes this creature and calls him Bek Lug, then proceeds to ask for his help. Bek Lug says men are sinners and he wants no part in their affairs. He refers to a magical plague that inflicted the kingdom of Vobert in the distant past, and also says soulcraft is very risky. The heroes insist, however, and eventually he agrees to hear them out at the Crystarium. At the Ocular, G'raha explains everything. Bek Lug is thoroughly impressed that the hero has come from another world and is the one who returned darkness to the skies.
After all they have done for our home, seeing them safely back to their own, it seems the very least we can do.
He then agrees to help, but says he will need assistance. Bek Lug begins to discuss the logistics. He says their ether is becoming unstable because it's being used to maintain these fake bodies. This mechanism would need to be paused, turning them into lifeless husks for a time. Alisaie comments that this is not unlike the doomed people she once cared for in Amareng, and this sparks curiosity in Bek Lug, who then asks to see them. Y'shtola says she'll meet with Urianger while the others head to Amareng. Moments later, Bek Lug gazes at Halric. He gives an old tonic to Halric, then to the hero, who distributes it around the camp. It has no effect on Halric, and around the camp it works on some and not on others. Beck Lug explains that there exists body ether and soul ether, and if the soul ether is corrupted, they are too far gone, so the tonic won't work. He is interested in searching for another way to cure them, and says that in doing so, they may learn something that helps them return to the source. First, he says they will need to conjure a familiar, as they can make great conduits of magic. He asks the heroes to gather certain materials. The twins offered to gather ones found in Ilmeg, while the hero heads to the miners to ask for clay. In Twine, Magnus and the miners are eager to help. They tell the hero of a nearby place where clay can be found. Back at the camp, all the materials are present, and Alice asks if she can be the one to perform the ritual. Beck tells her she's well qualified since she has personally cared for these people. First, he asks her to sculpt a porksy from the clay.
There we are. How's that?
Well, it is certainly creative. There's no denying that.
Yes, I'm no artist. Very funny.
Pay him no mind, child. Though it may look like a grotesque parody of reality, it is what the invoker believes that matters.
You're not helping.
He is right though, and she successfully performs the ritual. Beck tells her it's full of the energy needed to stir souls, but Alice must name it first. She names him Angelo and commands him to stir Halric's soul. He moves and speaks just a little, and Beck Lug confirms that he is expected to make a full recovery. From observing this, he says he can probably apply the reverse effect on the Scions to stagnate their souls so that they may be transported in crystals. Alice wonders if the technique used on Halric would actually work on Gabu back on the source. She also says she wants to remain at the camp, healing the other patients while Beck and the heroes test their new theories. Out of nowhere, Kai Shir approaches in a panic. He says Lady Chai is distressed and begs for their help. Beck says he can continue alone at the Crystarium so the hero can see what's going on in Yulmore.
Oh, thank heavens you're here!
Lady Chai, whatever is the matter?
First, she gives a little background. She says that once Lord Vothri was destroyed, they held an election for a new leader, but no one stood up for the role. So the people voted anyway, and her husband Chai Nuz was elected mayor. Soon after, he vanished without a word. Alphino reassures her that Master Chai is not the type to abandon his duty or his wife, and there must be an explanation. He insists that he and the hero will find him. They begin by asking several people around town. Everyone who managed to see him said he was concerned about the city's problems and what to do about them. Some say he was looking for ways to expand its industry. Alphino considers this information and suggests asking around outside Yulmore next. In the village of Wright, the hero finds that Master Chai visited earlier, asking about Wright's relations with Yulmore. Later, when the hero meets Alphino at the top of the ladder, he says that he and Kai Shir found the same to be true in the villages they visited. In the next town, the three of them run into Chai Nuz himself. He apologizes for his wife getting funny ideas and says he left her a note when he left. Alphino asks what he's up to, and in typical Chai Nuz fashion, his response shows that he's solving problems while claiming he's incapable of solving any problems. There's a man named Rindon, whose counsel he seeks guidance from, and Alphino offers to try to convince Rindon to help. After some intense encouragement from Kai Shir, Master Chai explains that Rindon was chief advisor to Vothri's father when he ran Yulmore. The four of them speak with Tristel the Painter because he knew Rindon. He says Rindon is uncompromising in his principles and won't work for anyone who isn't fully committed to their purpose. Chai Nuz must convince him that Yulmore has the resolve to change, so together they approach him.
Well, it's you again. And I see you've invited your friends. Need them to fight your battles for you, do you?
Chai Nuz says he didn't invite them, but they are his friends and the warriors of darkness who saved the world. Rindon says he did his job until there was no need of him in Vothri's paradise, so he left.
But you, Chai Nuz, you were content to wallow in indolence under Vothri's auspices. And so I cannot help but ask myself what manner of nation you intend to build.
Chai speaks shamefully about his past and the choices he made, but he insists those days are over and he wants a city built by free people.
To which end I would take steps to secure channels for supplies, rekindle relations with nearby settlements, who re-establish industry, reach out to neighboring nations, and the list goes on and on.
But Chai confesses he's a businessman, not a politician, and he needs Rinden's help. Rinden hears his plea, but says he wants Chai to first prove he's a man worth following. He says a lack of food stores is their most pressing problem and asks Master Chai how he plans to solve it. Chai pauses for a moment, then says he can take from Yulmore's coffers to purchase food from neighbors first. This will buy time to address the underlying problem, neglect of agriculture and production. He would have to see to the local villages being repopulated and ensure security in the region. Rinden is impressed with his answer, but says he still needs to provide the means to accomplish this. Chai says he would revive the Talos in the region and put them to work, as that happens to be his area of expertise. He takes everyone to the top of the ladder where his old tools are. He finds a powder that can be used to deactivate wild Talos. Chai insists on braving the wilds and doing it himself to prove his dedication. Rinden approaches Chai and apologizes, then tells him he has all the qualities of a leader. He says he'd be honored to serve him as counselor. Kai Shir mentions that Lady Chai must be worried sick, so the five of them march back to Yulmore with the Talos leading the way.
What's that noise?
Wicked White! Runaway Talos! Stay back! All of you!
Darling, you're back.
But of course I'm back. You didn't see... I can't...
Chai says he left her a note and explains that he only left to seek the counsel of the old senior advisor.
And now that I have it, I believe I am ready to take office.
Oh, how wonderful! Go on, dear.
He begins by saying there will be no bonded people, all are free, and that the people of Gatetown are welcome as well. Chai says they have placed great faith in him, and he will do his best to lead with integrity. He calls for an open forum to discuss plans of moving forward, and says the people will have to return to honest labor to ensure the city prospers.
I humbly ask that you lend me and each other your strength for Yulmore!
After the speech, Master Chai praises the heroes and says none of this would have been possible without them. Then two citizens approach who say the people outside are starving and they want to help feed them. Chai decides it's time to get to work and bids the heroes farewell. They return to the Crystal Tower to meet with the Exarch and the Scions. Unfortunately, Y'shtola and Urianger report that the plans to freeze the soul into white Orosite will not work after all, as it would destroy their minds in the process. They've scrapped that idea, but the Exarch has proposed that instead they study the Allagan technology in the Crystal Tower to accomplish the transference. Urianger agrees to check on Thancred and Reen, while the hero heads back to the source to update Tataru.
But tell me, how fare our friends in the first?
The hero gives a full update.
Well, while they press on with their preparations, you may rest assured we will continue to do our part here.
Estinian enters with updates from Garlemald after Riol found him and told him to come to the Rising Stones. He says he traveled to the Empire through Radzat-Han. While investigating Black Rose, he became unlikely allies with none other than Gaius Belsar, who calls himself Shadowhunter now. Together in the palace, they found that Xenos' soul lives on, and he has now regained his body. As Estinian tells the story, Kryl and the hero are struck with a vision of the same. In this vision, just after Xenos kills his father, the Emperor, the guards rush in and think Gaius and Estinian are responsible. A fight ensues, but they escape. On their way out, they are separated and Estinian finds that the Ultima weapon is being rebuilt. He is forced to fight it, but he succeeds and flees Garlemald.
Well, I didn't quite relive the experience as you did, but I bore witness to it all.
Our confrontation was cut short when the Imperial Guard arrived. It was then that Xenos took his leave, citing boredom.
To think their research into the Echo could bear such fruit. Escaping death, jumping from one body to the next, and returning to his own after all this time. He is an Ascian in all but name.
Nevertheless, Estinian says the Empire is in disarray and unable to attack. Further, Xenos himself destroyed their supplies of Black Rose. Gaius went off on another pursuit unknown to Estinian, while Riol went to inform the Eorzean Alliance. Estinian leaves. Meanwhile in Garlemald, civil war breaks out as rival legions struggle for dominance. Xenos watches from above, bored with it all, but a white-robed figure approaches with a radical idea that Xenos' next prey should be Zodiark, the ancient god of the Ascians. Meanwhile in Yulmore, citizens are abuzz discussing labor and starting up new farms. Elidibus, inhabiting the body of Ardbert, watches them. And that's it for patch 5.1. I hope you've enjoyed this recap. Stick around on this channel. I'll be making a recap video for the story of 5.2 next. Until next time.